I don't like that.
Thanks, Chair. Mayor Kabo, I would have listened to you on the presentation, and according to your presentation, 70% of the performance indicators of 2025-26, they did not satisfy the SMART principle, and they've got the potential to deal with the throughput of the first-time student, which can deal with misallocation of funds, and which can also deal with issues of corruptions. And we're speaking of first-time students who are normally confronted with registrations, allowances, and stuff. In your honest opinion, do you think the department is not aware of the SMART principles, or there's a deliberate way of not wanting to account on the audit outcomes ever since you've been doing your audits of the department on your previous fiscal years? I'm quite deliberate about this question.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Law, protect me from pronouncing that is deliberate, right? Let me not say it's deliberate, but let me share with you that the framework we utilize to measure performance and the APPs is a framework that is available for all of us. All our entities have got that framework. So let me leave it like that. Protect me from having to determine the intention, but allow me to tell you that the framework is widely available.
The intention is to respond to the needs of our students who are suffering every day.
Yeah.
The intention is to respond to the students who are living in bad conditions of accommodations in different TVETs. The intention is, as a result, to say SMART principles are the first tool to give guidance as to what should the audit be into. Accountable, transparent, and responsive to the budget that the government is giving to entities. Now, today, the Department of Higher Education seems not to be familiar with SMART principles, mainly because they seem to be quite surprised and shocked about these SMART principles. And the first instrument in your audit process or in governance, you start by applying the principles that seeks to balance and open up transparency and open up the field for you not to struggle as to what not getting issues. Secondly, in your presentations, you have referred that there were outstanding indicators that were left behind. And one of the critical indicators that were left behind from the department was the one of students who are trained by an entity called NSF, which they could not account as to how many learners were trained. Now, it means we could have spent the money, but the other department is not willing to account for how many they've trained and how can therefore unpack and put into expenditure. Now, I'm coming on the SMART principles because before we go to any other process, the primary entrance is that the department must be clear as to how do you apply your SMART principles and how do you therefore unpack the SMART principles to respond to the current situations. I'm going to give you scenarios. Entities are failing to develop in terms of society and as per the programs that they're giving. There's a lot of corruption taking place, hence you can see that today the Director General cannot even know that the APP is a predetermined document, analyzed, done by the department, and then they put measures to say how they implement it. The APP is a free framework that is going to give effect and a base as to how the department is expected to perform quarterly and how they are going to measure in terms of the instruments of the performance management system that is acquired by the law. Now, when you do that, you utilize the SLA as an agreement which is going to be a tool of measuring the work done. Hence, when you come now, we utilize the SMART principles to check, is it tangible, is it reliable, and is it accurate, and is it specific on the scope of work as per the alignment of the budget. We can't be teaching the department this. Now, it means our inefficiencies and our failure to respond to the needs of the children of the South Africans who do not have access to universities, accommodation, even food. It's as a failure of the department's plan, and to be honest, and to be also to align the current issues of the department and review their work. That is my analysis on the SMART principles, how it is deliberately left behind. Because the first tool to be accountable, you must apply those principles. That should be specific what you want to attain. So we are trying to show to the South Africans that, yes, indeed, there is no willingness or there is no willingly to say we can be able to change attitude. For example, I'm going to ask you again, in your fiscal years, in terms of the department's misalignment and their audit action plans, have they adequately responded to what you've given them, or you've been struggling to get the accurate responses in according to the audit action plans? I'm asking the auditing tool. So you only disagree on a period of time, and then the audit opinion becomes final, and it stays there, and then you can only do what? Deal with the ramifications on the audit action plans. Now, with a problem like this, it is emanating from ourselves that we are confronted with, is as a result that we are not confirmed, or we are not bound by the principles of how do we want to guide the department. Now, I'm not an auditor, but luckily God has given opportunity to become a mere HR practitioner. Now, how you measure your APP and how you align it with the current issues, it goes along with the budget. Now, when the indicator does not perform and the budget, there's expenditure, it means there's no alignment. There's either corruption, mismanagement, and misalignment, and failure to adhere to that. So I want to know, in your previous fiscal years, in the audit action plans, have the department adequately responded to the issues as we've recommended, or you are still stuck with few issues that are not yet aligned as per the SMART principles? Mohlodithero is SMART principles. Any engagement that we are going to emanate from now, it should be based on the SMART principles, because you are applying them when you are doing audit.
Thank you so much, Chair. Let me summarize it like this, Honorable Law, that so far as, and we call it audit of predetermined objectives. Okay? So meaning where we audit not only your APP, but we also audit your reporting. That is where the department is stuck, actually. In fact, if you look at the audit outcome for higher education, you would have seen, if I take you through the history, they would have had struggles with compliance, as an example. They dealt with compliance, and compliance will speak to supply chain and the likes. But the second other item that they struggled with is performance reporting. And that still stays with the department. So that stagnation, I think the department is still battling with it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. I've also noted in your report that 60% of the performance indicators were focused on the administrative outputs rather than education outcomes. Now, this misalignment has led to inefficiencies where approximately 500 million was spent on initiatives that did not yield measurable education improvements. What were the most significant shortcomings in the performance indicators used by the Department of Higher Education, and how these shortcomings affect the overall assessment of the department's performance? Thanks.
Trying to have an opportunity, can I allow her? Thank you, go ahead.
I just need a quick summary of the question, please. Just the last part of the main question.
Of the question was that how did the shortcomings affect the overall assessment of the department's performance?
Look, I think in this particular instance, because of the fact that we're not yet at a point of actually looking at the actual performance, hence we are at a point of actually cautioning in that with these shortcomings, the implication would be the actual performance element. So at this point in time, we're cautioning against you. I think it was mainly on the reporting element, in that the department would be planning on reports in that particular slide, rather than actually, the actual activities in the actual the actual activities that should be monitored. The implications of that is that when we come to now actually assessing the performance of the department, is that there might be a bit of a shortcoming, because what you would have planned in terms of the activities, one is not actually able to monitor the actual performance of the department. Hence, it's going to have that implication in terms of actual implications in terms of the actual implementation against the budget that would be allocated in the department in terms of implementation. I think that's where the shortcoming might be the instance.
In a nutshell, accountability is going to be a challenge. If you cannot craft these things in an unambiguous way, in a smart way, then we are going to spend, and accountability will be a bit of a challenge for us. Thank you.
Chair, the last question. I know my time has passed. DG, in all of the deliberations, I want to pose a question to you. Do you think it's fair for South Africans, and do you think it's fair for our students and our people whom we regard as motive forces to suffer the consequence of incompetency, failure to adhere to internal controls, and failure to do consequence management at the department, and a helm where you are the head of the institutions? Do you think that it's fair that you must always every day come here and speak one thing and there's nothing that is happening? What will be your take to the South Africans and the people in this room to deal with the changes adequately, effectively, and what do you think you will bring about to the committee or to the people of South Africa as a matter of saying we're going to change the situation in this particular way? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think up until we've changed the material conditions of our students out there, none of us must be satisfied. All of us must feel that we've got to do more than we are doing. And I think our task in the leadership is actually to inspire those we lead towards a different turn. What the AG is presenting here today is how we are doing it. Also, what the AG is saying is what are the weaknesses in the plans to turn it around. We are also saying at the same time, we know where we come from and where we are now. Maybe the distance from where we were to where we are now is not significant as much as we wish, but there is movement. I've got a team here of esteemed officials of the department who have served the government over many years. And I can tell you, many of them inspire me in terms of the work that they do. What is a shortcoming in our work is how do we link the strategic turn of the department towards the areas that will help us to move quickly towards reaching out to those. You said 50% of those who are living in rural areas and in the margins of society. Our coming here as the entire leadership of the department before the portfolio committee is so that we are able to provide not just the overviews or strategic angle of how we are moving, but also to be able to draw specific responses from the teams that are in operations, so that there is specific response to questions that Parliament is asking us. I can assure you, we are here committed. We are here believing that the direction we are taking is the one that is going to change the country for the better. And I am determined and I'm convinced that this is going to be achieved, especially if we work together with the Auditor General and other entities that seek to support us. I would discourage anyone who feels they are differ at this stage, because we are at a sensitive stage of the revolution. We are at a different, at this stage we cannot afford. When the chair was asking me a question about how are we going to make sure that those who differ in terms of recommendations of the AG, how are we going to turn it around? I understand that question to also mean, can you really afford at this stage that we have people just engaging us academically when actually the reality of the environment is about the lives of our people? And in as much as we will listen to academic arguments, what is important to me is turning the system towards ensuring that everyone is there, and all the views that we receive and all the support we can get from the portfolio committee, from the Auditor General to me, will help us to get to that point. And we apologize if we are not specific, Chair, sometimes. And I think it's not easy to be in Parliament. And we must accept that many of us are just bureaucrats and technocrats. But there is no intention to mislead. If you allow me, I'll make one example of the SLA. Because this is a question which I feel I'm not satisfied we've answered satisfactory. The AG said to me about the SLAs, look, there's a problem with your SLAs. Not here, in the previous audit. There's a problem with your SLA. Your SLAs, what sitters are doing, they don't concentrate on what is in the APP. They craft them such that they choose the easiest things to achieve. In other words, you will have an SLA and you will have the APP. But in the manner, because they know the SLA is the sharpest tool to hold boards accountable. If they can reduce the impact of the measurability, the SMART principle, in terms of how it is crafted, it delays the department in actually holding them accountable. That's what AG said in the previous year. This year, what I think Mr. Mvalo was I thought that's the angle he was taking. He was trying to be specific about what we are doing with the SLAs to make sure that they are aligned to the SLAs. How it came across, it's another matter. But I would have thought that is how he wanted to respond. Chair, I think that is my humble take in the question that is really fundamental, because it's also a strategic question that must also question how the strategic direction of the department takes into account the issues that are flagged to us by the Auditor General. Thank you.